Little lunchtime smoke here. Up on the porch of the guest house. It's off in the woods a little ways from the main house, so kind of peaceful. And then I had read about Frank Lloyd Wright's compression and expansion. So he had a little technique where he would do a kind of a dark, narrow entrance with a small door opening, main door opening. So you'd kind of come in and feel a little compressed. Then you'd open up the door and it would open into a big space. So that was expansion. So it's a cool effect. You know, if you ever have a chance to go through a Frank Lloyd Wright house, you really should. Falling Water in Pennsylvania is one of the preeminent ones. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. You know, just the ideas he had. It was radical. Of course, you need a patron to put those ideas into brick, concrete, glass. He was willing to be radical, though. So I'm smoking some Balkan Supreme in a new to me Wally Frank. Let's see if I can get that to focus. No? Come on. I know you want to. There you go. Wally Frank is all it says. So to me, this rustication looks Italian. You know, the blast. It just has that look to me. So I'm going to suggest it's a later Wally Frank that is probably Italian. So thank you, Ralph, for sharing this with me. Speaking of Pennsylvania. You know, he was saying how it was a really big pipe. I guess if you're a big guy like me, you need a big pipe. This is a mid-sized pipe. And there's a little ghosting in there. The pipe's in great shape. But there was some kind of aromatic in there. It might even have had a Lakeland mixture, because my taste buds are seriously impaired, but there's a soapiness that always occurs for me when I smoke a Lakeland mixture. So that's kind of what's going on here. Balkan Supreme with some Lakeland. It's all part of the adventure when you're doing estate pipe. So, you know, we just kind of, all of us just kind of blitz along here, just putz along in our lives, assuming everything's going to go on the way it always has, right? So sometimes, kitty, come on up. Well, we'll see. You know, last night there was, in our little town, not a whole lot happens in our little town, emergency-wise. So, 5 o'clock in the evening, call comes in, motor vehicle collision downtown. So, it's more than that. It's a van that was driven by an older guy, maybe irrelevant. Coming around a corner, there was a couple in a crosswalk, a designated crosswalk, and boom, he just hits them, boosh, stars the windshield, that much impact, even though the speed should be like 10 or 15 miles an hour. Although you could do that. So both were airlifted over to Seattle. See if they make it. But, you know, they're just minding their own business, following the rules, crossing at the crosswalk. And so apparently the sun was in the guy's eyes. And if you can't see, I mean, you're responsible for your vehicles. So we'll see how that all shakes up. But, kitty. But there they were, just minding their own business, and then boom, you know, lives changed. So, interestingly, also yesterday I was talking with my supervisor. Great guy, an engineer, so he has kind of a engineering perspective on things, which is pretty fact-based, pretty much cut and dry, sort of mathematical precision, and not a lot of loose ends. You know, that to me is kind of an engineering state of mind. So we were just talking, you know, it's like, oh, how's the hip gonna go? Oh yeah, all right. So we were talking about illnesses, as we do. And so he had, how did that happen? Oh, he I'd had my appendix out, but I had it just before it burst. So another day I probably would have had much more serious surgery. So I caught it just in the nick of time. And that's true. That's maybe my thing. I don't know. I mean, my skin cancer in my ear was the same way. You know, there was a carcinoma, or melanoma. And we caught it in time. So, yay. So it was able to be fully removed. But just barely. So, hopefully this hip was the same way, you know, before it, like, gets trashed to the point that it's really difficult to deal with. We're going to do the hip replacement. Yay. So anyway, my supervisor was saying how he had let his appendix had actually burst. And this was also a discussion about how men often feel invulnerable in the world. I'm guilty. Yeah. And so his appendix burst, but he didn't realize that. He was just feeling pretty poorly. But finally, after like 2 days of that, his wife said, hey, we're going to the hospital. So they did. And they cleaned him out, had to open him up and rinse everything out. You know, instead of my little procedure that was arthroscopic and just, you know, minimal. So anyway, he said that recovery was really hard. It took a long time. He just felt like crap for a long time. And he kind of did a downhill swing at one point. He said he had this dream where he was in a boat, like a kind of a big rowing boat, and there were other people in the boat, and the person in the very back was giving directions. And my supervisor was at the very front, you know, pulling with a paddle. And they were in a tunnel. He said it was very kind of there was color, but it was monochromatic. It was like the tunnel walls were kind of a terracotta and had some texture, but it was sort of this brick color. The water was very gray colored. And when he looked back, the people were just kind of a monochrome tan. And he didn't remember any detail about them. But he did see up ahead a bright light. That's interesting. So this is not a religious guy. This is an engineer. So he said he was pulling, but he noticed that the whole scene was slightly tilted and slightly pointed up. So he was pulling uphill, kind of, which doesn't make sense. But and he wasn't making any way. He wasn't gaining any ground. So he said, no matter how hard I pulled on that paddle and urged other people to pull harder, because he had this desire to go towards the end of the tunnel or get out of the tunnel where the light was, right? And he said he just couldn't do it. He was they were actually moving backwards. And then he woke up. So, if you're kind of woo-woo, you might say, oh, well, that's going to the light. That's that, common thing. There's been some, there's all kinds of opinions about that. And there are some folks who point to physiologic, biologic science and why our minds would do that, would have that kind of imagery. So anyway, I thought it was really interesting. So I said, so did that make you feel kind of vulnerable? Or do you do things differently now? Or did that give you kind of a psychological ease that things might just take care of themselves? Maybe if we're dying, perhaps. I don't know. And he said, well, I have realized I am not invulnerable, and so I try and take care. He broke his ankle, or his lower leg, a few years ago, and he said that was a bitch to heal too. So he said he's more careful now. But I don't think I didn't get from him that the going to the light experience was notable, but it wasn't like religiously meaningful. So anyway, it's kind of interesting stuff. And I was yesterday. I did a anesthesia check-in, pre-surgery check-in down at the hospital. They ask you all the very particular questions about your response to drugs or metals, or what have you had in the past? Are you allergic to this? Do you smoke? And I had this really great nurse who was about my age, and she said, I have it down here that you smoke a pipe. I said, well, yes, that's true. And once you admit that, it's in the record. But I'm just not a lying kind of guy. I just don't, I don't know. So I made the decision to just be completely honest and transparent about it. And honestly, I don't smoke that much, She said, oh, it's okay. It's okay. My dad smoked a pipe. And she had great memories of him. He smoked a cherry blend and an apricot blend. And she said, oh, I miss those aromas. So smoking a pipe wasn't a problem. Yeah. So she recognized the difference, So thanks, Ralph, for sharing the pipe with me. I really appreciate it. It was great of you to lift me up here. And there's Wally Frank. I don't know if that will be visible. Yeah, all right. It's Wally Frank. Pretty simple stamp. Not a imported briar, not a carved in Italy, not anything. So, but it's a good smoking pipe. These half bents with a big bowl, kind of bent billiards. They are pretty darn good as pipes for smoking. And then I put my vinyl tubing on there, and it was a little bit of a tight fit, but wow, when it's tight like that, it kind of thins it just a little bit. Has great clench. Great clench. So 3/8 was the diameter of that tubing. Heat it up in a cup of hot water, and then you have to really spend a little time to work it on there. But Yeah, I just like it so much better with something I can clench. So I'm just kind of finishing up projects. Tomorrow I get my COVID test. First one in a year. So, got my ride all lined up. A friend of mine's who normally does that for me, and I've done it for her, but she's busy. So I find it hard to ask my friends. I find it hard to call in favors. I will if I have to, and I did. I had done this for this friend too, and he said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." So it was really nice of him to do it. Drive me down there and pick me up the next day. Yes, sirree. Oh, the truck, yeah. That goddamn Dodge. So, it was barfing ATF, automatic transmission fluid, like a quart every 300 miles, and leaving a big pool. When it was raining out, it looked like the Exxon Valdez had run aground under my truck. You know, it's just, I hate that. It's irresponsible. I don't like leaking fluids like that. And I knew there was a little engine leak somewhere too, but that was relatively minor. The ATF was, when I was over in eastern Washington, we got a little snow, and it was like something had bled on the snow, and you know, ATF is red, colored red. So I took it down to my rednecks at the transmission place, and they ran me home yesterday, and then you know, did an oil change and filter and air filter and just routine stuff. Well, turns out there are high pressure hydraulic lines that go to an oil cooler in the front of the truck from the transmission, and I also put a deep pan on the transmission, so I don't have a temperature gauge for it, but I'm sure it's, you know, pretty well taken care of in that regard. But the high pressure lines were old and had kind of rotted through in a few places, and that's where the leak was, and it wasn't obvious. So you know, that's what they do for a living. So I say a lot of times, you know, oh, I guess you can learn yourself how to do it, so you'll do this once in a lifetime, painfully, on my gravel sloping driveway. Ugh. So just hire an expert, you know. I mean, that's why we make money, right? It's to pay them. So it's great. They take pictures on their phone and then put it in, send it to an app, and then they send you the link, and then you can look at exactly what they're seeing with their comments. Now that's a new way to do that, and that makes a lot of sense. I like it. So, and those guys down there are great, and they, I don't know, maybe it's just interpersonal kumbaya, but I feel like they take good care of me. I mean, it costs as much as any shop would, but I really like those guys. So, all about transmissions in Bremerton, Washington. There you go, Garrett, you got a plug. So, yeah, they've done a lot of work. Truck, and you know, it's only got 200,000 miles on it. My brother had one that had almost 600,000 on it. So it's all in how it's been taken care of. Like when I bought it with 175,000, maybe. Maybe it's a little less than that, 160 something. But that was, we did the transmission in 2009 according to their records. So, you know, I've had it for a while. But I tell you, you pay, like my friend Ed said, you know, you pay piece by piece by piece as it parts fall off and so forth and need to be replaced, or you pay up front for a new truck with a warranty, and hopefully nothing major goes wrong. So you take your poison. You know, the new trucks have more safety features and anti-lock brakes and all that. I mean, this does too, but it's rudimentary at best. So anyway, it's what I'm with, and I put so much money into it, I can't get rid of it now. I keep thinking, well, what else could break? But honestly, there's a lot of parts on there that could break. So anyway, if they can't get the parts in and get them on the truck by Friday, their last working day this week, then I have my surgery on Monday. I can't drive for like 3 weeks, 2 weeks anyway. So they're going to just deliver it up here, and then I'll call in with my card, you know. It's that kind of place. Yeah. So they're good. But the ongoing saga of the truck. And then part of yesterday's medical thing, this is how we do it in the U.S. So I have good insurance, but I still have a $5,000 out-of-pocket expense on the surgery. So, and that's with good insurance. So I guess that'll just be my birthday present to myself. This is my new hip. The truck, not so much. Nah, we'll not make that a birthday present. But yeah, the hip, I figure that's chalk it up to a birthday present. Meow. What do you say? Hmm? Come on up. Come on up. Come on. Kitty. Gonna say hello? A quick little hello? Yeah. Oh, yes, you're so happy to be held. I know, aren't you? Yeah. Not really purring. All right. Yeah, I know. Okay, well, I gotta get going. Back to work. Luckily, I love what I do. So, it's always fun going in there and working. I mean, that's how work should be. Now, I know that not every job has that potential, but or the congruency between your own values and work, you know. But I'm lucky that way. So, yeah. And it helps me pay for surgery and that damn truck.